Hey now, cats, we're back again this week on the Balls from Ellwood show, and with me is not only the lead singer of one of my favorite bands, a returning guest to the Balls from Ellwood show, Mr. Austen from Joker's Republic. It's
Thanks
good to
for having
see
me
you
again.
in the flesh.
Yeah,
Normally, the last couple times it's been via Zoom, so...
Was it like 2022?
Well,
Around the time Necessary Evil came out, so it was 4 years ago?
Yeah, because
like
I remember I actually got a copy of that, and we went over it. Well, I just picked up the vinyl in there, because that's actually the one gap in my collection. So that was my white whale.
Gotta get it before it's gone, you know?
And you have to pre-order the new album, which is The Hand You're Dealt.
The Hand You've Been Dealt
on
coming out.
Punkerton Records October 10th. So be sure you do that. Balls pre-ordered the super cool black and white version, because, I mean, it makes sense,
Yeah,
right?
the two-tone Monty's objectively one of the coolest variants I think I've ever seen of any vinyl. So
I snapped that shit up immediately. Like they were, we call it, they were even asking me, they were like, which one you pick? Because you guys are like kind of trying to take it through the checkboard. Come on.
yeah, no, it's objectively one of the coolest vinyl variants I think I've ever seen, especially for a ska band. I know Brandon brought that idea up to me very early doors, was like, I want to do a splatter variant, you get your band variant, there will be the distro variant, but then I want to do something cool for me. And as soon as he brought that idea up, we're like, yeah, you kind of have to do that.
I wanted to ask you, since Necessary Evil, which is still a heavy rotation album on my playlist, how was making this new album different from the last album?
I think we went into it knowing what to expect this time. Working with Roger is amazing. Like, I have nothing but nice things to say about the experience, but when we went out there the first time, true story, I brought like 7 guitars with me. I brought an amp head that we didn't wind up using. I brought all of my gear, and Roger's like, yeah, so here's a guitar that less than Jake uses for most of their stuff. Use this. And I'm like, okay. So, we were definitely a lot more prepared in terms of knowing the equipment of the studio, what things were going to sound like what. But also, we were more prepared songwriting-wise, because we knew Roger was going to try to cut things up a certain way as a producer, which is his job, so we paid him to do. We kind of pre-did that before we went out, which made things a lot faster in the long run. And I think both of us have kind of an idea of each other's vibes at this point, where it was much easier. Not that it wasn't easy the first time, but much easier the second time.
Let me ask you this. One of the things that I like the most about your band and your particular style of songwriting is you always write, like it seems, a lot of, like about some deeply personal things. How in this album, you know, I am assuming there's going to be a lot of stuff that would have to do with politics. What can we do in this day and age to fight the fascist regime that's going on right now?
Don't shut up. Do not let them silence you. That is the big thing that everybody can do, no matter where you are or what your status is. Don't shut up. Because democracy dies in darkness. I know it's kind of a hokey phrase, but it is the truth. Like, we are doing it by writing the record, by talking about by being the people that we are honestly. Everybody else can do that too, just by being authentic to themselves and speaking out, which is a start. And I think that's something that's very accessible to everyone.
Let me ask you this. Whenever you sit down to write stuff, I know you pull things from, you know, everyday life, your personal experience, but do you have a certain routine, or I mean, where do you draw inspiration from? Or does it just come to you, or do you have like little, you know, segments in your mind? Or can you tell me your writing process and how it is?
So something new about The Hand You've Been Dealt is that I am not the only songwriter on this record. So I'm going to speak from my experience for the songs that I did write on this record, which is the majority of them, but not all of them. Everything does have a real story behind it to an extent. Some details are obviously embellished for artistic license because it tells a better story, but everything does have a real inspiration to it, and that's important because I feel like that's what makes the content relatable. You know, you can tell a story that's complete fiction and it can be well written, but you don't have your heart in it, and that's not going to really speak to anybody. So as much as it is vulnerable for me to, you know, wear my heart out on my sleeve and air some of my dirty laundry, I've had people come up to me with the last record and be like, that was real and your music saved my life. And that to me is what keeps me going. And, you know, music can very well be therapy just as much as anything else. So it's kind of symbiotic in that way, where I get something out of it by healing from experiences and telling my story honestly, or as honestly as I can within 3 minutes, and somebody else gets something out of it by going, yeah, I've been there too.
I do feel that way, especially with a lot of the songs from the last album. They're very relatable. But I want to ask you, you had talked earlier about, how it's very flattering when people say that your music saved my life. Can I ask you, who are some of the bands and what are some of the songs that you elicit that same response?
Streetlight Manifesto, easily. Point Counterpoint by Streetlight Manifesto, A Better Place, A Better Time by Streetlight Manifesto. I would not be here without that band. I got through some real dark times right around the time that I rediscovered ska in high school, because I grew up on it, but like there's a period of time where it was like, oh, Green Day is the best band in the world, and they're pretty good. And I started learning guitar and found my artistic voice in ska because of Streetlight. So it's not only that they saved my life, literally, but here's a band from an hour south of me in New Jersey, came out within the last, at the time, 10 years, made it somewhere. I can do that too. And it not only, it helped me find my voice. So Streetlight saved my life in 2 ways, not just one.
Well, this question kind of ties into the last one, and it's probably the same answer now that I'm thinking about it. But everybody, you had said you first got into ska when you were in high school.
Before that.
Oh, before that?
Yeah, I grew up on ska when I was like 2 or 3. The Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtracks. My dad was a punk rocker.
Did you see that documentary?
Which one? Ska in the 90s?
No, the one about the Tony Hawk documentary, the soundtrack.
No.
And how that actually inspired so many
It's
people.
on my watch list. It really genuinely
amazing.
is, and I just haven't gotten
It's amazing to me that just that soundtrack could have brought so many people to ska music. Like,
Yeah.
But what I wanted to ask you was, what's that Chasing the Dragon moment? Like, what was that first band that you heard that said, oh fuck, I gotta have this in my life, the rest of my life, I can't live without ska?
I think the first band where I listened to it and I was like, oh, ska, this is awesome, was Real Big Fish.
Oh, nice.
It was Real Big Fish. I moved from Staten Island, New York to Belleville, New Jersey when I was very little, and at the time my dad used to make mix CDs for me, and the one that I remember the most was Sell Out by Real Big Fish, Come On Eileen by Save Ferris, Something Better by the Pie Tasters, and at the time Tony Hawk 4 had just come out, so All My Best Friends Are Metalheads by Less Than Jake was huge for me. But Sell Out by Real Big Fish was really the one I give the credit to, because when I think of ska, that's the song that pops into my head.
Where do you get your punk inspiration from? Because I feel like you guys are like a really good fuse of both.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've heard ska punk bands that are just good, but I feel like you guys are upper echelon. So like, where, you told me your ska influences, where does your punk influence come from?
So I grew up on Green Day. American Idiot is the reason I
still
picked
love
up guitar.
Green Day, man. Like everybody seems like it's popular now to shit on Green Day, but like, I mean,
I
when I was a kid, man, like, I mean, that's, I mean, let me ask you this. I mean, do you feel since you've started, the scene's changed at all? Because like, I remember when I was a kid, it was a certain way, and it has now, but like, I don't shit on Green Day because like, I think it's cool that they bridged the gap and they actually influenced a lot of people to that. And that was their first exposure to punk rock. I think most hardcore punks would be like, yeah, and they turn their nose up at that. But I think that shit's kind of cool, man. And I still like Green Day. And I know most people, when you say that, you're gonna look around and yeah, still like Green Day.
So in the case that I don't have to look over my shoulder when I say I like Green Day, yes, the scene has changed. But honestly, when I got started in Jersey, there really wasn't one. There was a couple of bands trying to do stuff. We had Hub City Stompers, I Defy, Back Air Superheroes were around at the time, but there were no promoters that really knew what to do with the ska bands, and I just decided to do it myself. So in terms of the scene that I helped to foster, no, it doesn't feel very different at all, but I imagine it has to be different than the 90s. I can't speak to that, though. I just turned 27 yesterday, so.
I know, happy birthday.
Thank you.
I got one more question for you.
Sure. Oh, to answer the punk influences just fully. Green Day, NoFX, unfortunately a band from Pittsburgh that's not cool anymore and did something really fucked up, but the influence does live on. That whole like 90s skate punk kind of scene is really where it was at for me, though I did also listen to the Sex Pistols, The Damned, and all that growing up.
My last question. What do you think has given ska music the longevity it's had over the decades? Why do you think it still comes in waves and it still influences, inspires people to this day?
Because it doesn't come in waves. That's the one answer that, because I actually went to, speaking of picking up ska in the 90s, I went to the Brooklyn show, and they asked me, or they had a Q&A, sorry. A big freaking spider right there, so I'm just going to
Got
step
another
away for a
ska
second.
fan here, folks. Can you imagine if you had that many legs in the sky?
Sorry about that. Q&A for Brooklyn Ska in the 90s premiere, and I asked the question, what do you think the characteristics of the fourth wave are going to be? Do you think there's going to be a fourth wave to both Scott from Rolling Fish and Cooley Rice? And they both answered, don't characterize it as a wave, because that's doing a disservice to all the bands that are here right now.
How do you feel about like the new tone wave, like from the Bad Time Records stuff? Do you feel like that's another wave or no?
I do and I don't. I don't think it's a wave because all of the bands that are part of it, including us, have been doing it for some time. Like, the term Newtown really didn't come around for the last couple of years, but we've been around since 2015. We identify with that movement. But there's also the Best of the Worst, who's been doing it since, 2008, 2009. There was no wave then, but they're also a part of this movement. And I think the thing that gives ska its longevity, besides the fact that new tone bands are taking it more seriously and less as a joke, it's never gone because there's always somebody doing it. And outside of America, when you look at like the UK, Mexico, Japan, like, it's huge. Ska never died anywhere else but America, and the reason why is because Americans think it's a joke, and it's not. And I think that's the thing that gives it the longevity, is that we finally started taking it seriously, and the people who are here for it know what's up and have been here for it the entire time.
That's a really good answer. In fact, I've always felt that, even since I was young. I've never thought it was a joke, and I would always get upset at people that kind of like would poke fun at it, or kind of turn their nose at it or look down at you because you like ska. Like it's nice to see it. I mean, are you happy that like people are now like more readily embracing it?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing in general that ska is being more widely embraced. I think that if you really look at the roots of the movement, it's not that different from the stuff that is mainstream right now in terms of what we're talking about, and even some of the musical stylings. Like, if you look at some pop songs, it's all offbeats. It's just not ska offbeats. So I'm happy to see it be more embraced in the mainstream. At the same time, there's still going to be people that are always going to shit on it just because they think it's funny, and, it's not for you.
One of your new singles on your new album is Panic, Panic. Can you tell me where the inspiration for that song comes from? Because there's always I always see there's underlying things about anxiety and different things like that. And I think that's really important because I feel, in my own opinion, I don't feel like those kind of issues are taken very seriously nowadays. And I think it's important for artists like you actually, throw open that curtain and just bare your soul. Because that's important. Because a lot of times people are embarrassed to talk about that stuff, and that's why I think it's so important that you guys do that. And I love it because it makes people feel more connected. It makes people feel more easily able to talk about it and comfortable. So can you tell me specifically where that particular song comes from?
Yes, Panic, Panic, Panic. I started writing, so we did that big tour with all of those bands. We played a hometown show with Inspector 7 a week later,
Nice.
and then the world shut down.
Oh.
And my day job is a crappy retail front-end management job that I don't hate. It keeps me in guitar strings, and they don't complain when I tour. But that period of time sucked. For a solid 2 years, it was just brutal. And you heard people talking about essential workers all the time. I was one of them, and that was not fun. But it wasn't even really the job so much as the people panicking around me. So the chorus I wrote back then, and I held on to it for years. I want to say maybe a year and a half, until I finally had a story worth telling, lyrically and narratively. The other half of it came from a real life moment of panic where I kind of just realized, which you do eventually, that if you're trying to function, panic is not the right thing to do. So I had that chorus, and just tried to expand on that feeling a little bit. I came up with a riff shortly after. It all came together, and the midsection was inspired by a Monkey song that is from that whole tour experience right before the world shut down. So it was just a kind of a combination of a whole bunch of other things into one. And it came out as, we think, the strongest and catchiest song on the record.
Last but not least, where can everyone find this record at again? And when is it coming out?
The Hand You've Been Dealt on Punkerton Records, coming out October 10th. You can stay tuned to @JokersRepublic if you want to get more updates from us, or @Punkerton Records if you want to get updates from them. You can also find me @Austen Gray, that is SKAUSTENGRAY, on everything.
Not only that, make sure you go and check out all the records, because if you don't, you folks are doing yourself a great disservice. Mr. Austen Gray, it's a pleasure to finally meet you in person.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Peace and love.
Peace and love.